So, depends on whether you want to do the headphone thingy.
Yeah.
Like, I am used to the headphone thingy, you know.
Check. Yeah.
If you
I can do
want
this so it's easier.
to get the ASMR. And let me make sure everything is rolling. This is rolling. Camera's rolling. Okay. And yes, I'm still getting this. I am getting a buzz all the time. If you need to bring the volume up, it's this top right corner thingy.
Okay.
You need
it's good now actually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
it's
it
good.
depends. Yeah. You know.
Nah, I'm alright.
Yeah.
It's this one, right?
That's right.
Okay. Check. Oh, there we go. Okay lah, boleh.
Mm-hmm. Sound check. One,
Check,
two, check. Yeah.
Back in the day.
Back in the element.
I know. Well, there are multiple elements these days.
Yes, indeed. You know.
It's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know. Well, you know, it used to be used to put together notes and melodies and chords and scales and riffs. Now you put together, you know, it's a different formulation.
Different ingredients.
Spices, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, the analogy is actually there. It's the same thing, you know.
And you're right. It's true because most art forms kind of need like a kind of guideline. So in music, it's notes, it's chords, it's, you know, what's the bridge. And it works the same way with a dish. Because if your dish isn't balanced or isn't well structured, it falls apart. Nobody's going to like it. Nobody's going to buy it. It will not retain its place on a bestseller list. That kind of a thing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You know, same lah. You know. Yeah. Your mix, your frequencies are not balanced. Your depth, your front and back is not the. You know.
Yeah.
It's not there. It's either become something flat.
Correct.
You know, edible but flat. You know.
I like the way you say it, edible but flat, because there's a lot of stuff out there that's edible but flat. So I don't know, people say it's easier to stand out now because all you need to do is just make something memorable. But that's a story for another day.
Ooh, okay.
Two old uncles. This is our story, y'all.
Well, you know, maybe MSG.
My name's not Roger, so maybe not. But it's I have to say, like because of him, there is a growing acceptance of MSG for what it is. You know, if you go back a couple of years, okay, maybe not a couple of years, maybe 10, 15, 20 years, MSG had this ginormous stigma. Oh, it's bad for you, it'll make you lose hair, and all the other stuff lah, bad for your health. These days, because it's being utilized by famous people and people have come to accept that you need it to achieve a certain flavor level, without MSG, sure, it's healthier, but it's just not the same. So I think there is that acceptance now, which for me is great, but as with all things, in moderation.
Yeah. The key is moderation lah.
Correct.
You know? Yeah. You know, I mean, you can't deny that like a chocolate cake with a tiramisu is so good, but don't eat it every day.
You're right.
You know?
But having said that, if you eat that every day, it loses its luster. So the typical analogy goes, your second burger will never be as good as your first.
Really?
Yeah. Likewise, your second ice cream there is a term for it. It's diminishing
return. No.
Yeah, something. So basically, it comes back to the same thing. Your second set of fries is never going to be as good as your first. So diminishing returns, diminishing something. There's a term for it. It escapes me right now.
All right, you know. Yeah. But is it something that's like a proven thing?
Oh yeah.
In the culinary world, in the world of gastronomy.
I think it transcends just the culinary and gastronomy. I think it works the same with music as well.
Really?
You know, that's why songs get overplayed. You listen to it once, you're like, oh, listen to it maybe second, third time, you're like, you still you listen to it to the 15th time, you're like, somebody better kill me right now.
Okay.
We know of some radio stations that play on this formula, but you know, all the best to you guys. But having said that, I think that formula works well, whether it's food, it's music, it's you know, whatever you hold true and dear in life, you gotta keep it in moderation. You gotta keep it exciting and you know, space it apart. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tiramisus every single day it's not going to be tiramisu anymore. It's just death.
It's just diabetes.
Correct.
And diabetes and high blood pressure.
Exactly. Diabetes miso.
Okay, so maybe that's why, that's why when okay, we met up just before this, it was like, hey, I thought we were gonna go to like the nearby cafe or somewhere like that, join. But then you say, I want kopitiam food.
Yes.
It's like, hey, you sure?
Yeah.
I thought we were gonna go to,
I think because where the restaurant is in a mall, that's the norm. You're used to the cafes, you're used to the sourdough bread, sandwiches, excuse me, and you're used to like, great furnishing and piped in music and everything's laid out in a nice way. But the kopitiam is the whole other opposite, and it retains its charm. I'm not just talking about cheap food. I'm talking about like people having conversations over a table and it's loud and there are sounds of cutlery. To me, those are sounds of life. This is how our forefathers subsisted and thrived, and it sure makes me, there's that nostalgic factor all over it.
Right.
But it's great to go back into it once in a while, every now and then, so everything in moderation again. Yeah. So that to me, having not had kopitiam food for on a regular run, you miss it. The same way you're away from home, you miss home, that kind of a thing. And it was good. It was a good meal.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I will take into account because I tell myself that, I could, my favorite food is actually wonton mee. It's like I could eat that every single day. But maybe if I did eat it like every day for 30 days in a row, maybe I will.
Oh, you will?
It's like, I don't know. In my head, I say no, but
okay. Push come to shove, it might happen.
It might happen, huh?
But okay, so here's the thing. You could try, so maybe this is a challenge. Do a 30-day wonton mee challenge. It doesn't have to be lunch and dinner, maybe just lunch. 30 lunches in a month. And then gauge your satisfaction on day 10.
Right.
Gauge your satisfaction again on day 15, likewise day 20, day 25, day 30. There will be points that you feel like you want to give up because, I'm sick and tired of this. But push through. And then you'll realize the importance of that term, diminishing marginal utility. So
okay.
it gives you less than when it first did.
Right,
It's the whole Gen Z thing. It gives, but then it doesn't.
Okay. Sorry, I'm lost on that. Yeah. Okay, it's like it's like for the junkie that, takes that first hit and it's like, ooh,
Yeah.
But then after that, you need a higher dose, a higher dose, higher dose.
We're not suggesting you try this.
No.
We just, this is, in theory.
In theory. I don't know how I got there.
No. We textbooks.
Yeah. I heard from a friend.
Medical people.
Yes. No.
They tell us stories.
ChatGPT told me.
Yes.
Nowadays, that's what I said. I learned from ChatGPT.
Correct.
Oh man.
I got to be honest with you. I've not used that app, and I'm proud of it. Okay. So here's the thing, and cancel me if you wanna, but I'm just gonna say my piece. But I think the more reliant we are on artificial intelligence, and that's a broad umbrella statement. The more reliant on these things we lose a little bit more of who we're supposed to be. I'll give you an example. Like, you remember when Waze first came out? And I think, I could be wrong, it was sometime 2011, 2012. Waze came out then. And before that, it was you either knew the road or you had to ask someone. And the very act of asking someone for directions is a human thing. You're in trouble, you ask for help. You don't know something, you ask for directions. That kind of a thing. Then ways come about and change the way we communicated or the way we reached out. And so, to me and to a lot of us older people, we lost a bit of that human side of us, the ability to reach out, to ask for help. Because nowadays it's all on your screen, on your device. So you've lost or you've far lessened the need to be able to want to engage with another person, another human. You know, once upon a time we drive, we go down an empty road, we don't know where, we wind down the window and like, uncle, sini mau pergi sana, betul lah? You know, that kind of thing. It's micro conversations, but it means a lot. Like, you know, you learn how to navigate through a social situation where you're probably at a disadvantage. And that helped. And then, you know, so this is us uncles telling stories about how, you know, the current generation, because they're all into apps and they're all into like, oh, okay, everything's kind of just fed into their system. And I feel they've lost a large part of that side of humanity. How do you ask? How do you navigate a social situation? And then, you know, the older generation has the nerve to say, yeah, these kids these days, it's not their fault. That's my point. It's not their fault.
Exactly.
They've just been brought up. I mean, you're a product of your environment. If you've not been taught how to ask, if you've not been taught how to navigate, you'll never get there. You'll never realize that side of your human side. We had to. We got lost. We go to somebody's house. The first thing you mean, hi uncle, hi auntie. Then they ask, oh, you ate already or not? Oh, yes, or not yet. Come, I feed you, eat. So you navigate
life that way. Yeah.
Potentially uncomfortable social situations. You know how to navigate. And then these kids, they don't know how to say, they don't reply you, and then you think they're rude. No, they're just not been taught. And I feel that's where that generational gap is. Just not knowing why these people are not answering you the way you think they should.
Yeah.
And then us, the older bunch, having the expectation, hey, why you so rude? Why you never call uncle? You know, that kind of a thing. That's just me and old man rant, man. That's
well, rant valid, man. You know, I
Yes.
mean, I share some of the feelings, and you're absolutely right.
yeah.
But you know, I mean, these are the things which is brought on by technological shifts and change, which it outpaces the ability of our brain or nature to keep up with it.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
you know,
It does.
it's, you know, whatever the Moore's law of computational power, blah blah blah. It's exponential, but to get to where we are took us hundreds of thousands of years or
That's
whatever
right.
to for our brain to be at this stage. And now, you know, AI technology is shooting
Correct.
off into Deep Space Nine.
Correct. But in so doing, you always question, okay, you know, what gets lost in transit or what gets lost along the way. And so these are some of the things that we've lost as people, as a human race.
Yeah.
So these are some of the things that have potentially made us less human because we are so reliant on tech or artificial intelligence and so on and so forth. So it's I'm a lot less tech savvy than a lot of other people. And you know, I've been shot down so many times. Oh, why can't you do this? You're just an old dinosaur. Things of the nature. And it comes to a point where you just, oh, whatever, because you're starting to see it a lot more now, the effects of what tech has done to us. And there are multiple studies on how social media is actually causing brain rot and so on and so forth. Sure, in moderation. There we go again. In moderation, everything's lovely.
Yep.
It helps you to reach out to friends that you've not connected with for a million years.
Yeah.
But if it becomes the norm, you know, you're on it like half your waking life.
Exactly. You know, the constant dopamine hit, it's proven it's not a good thing. It's literally altering minds in our brains.
That is
you know?
absolutely correct.
Yeah.
And it's horrible, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I recently read an article. I got friends who are in academia. Apparently, Scandinavian countries are rolling back some of they were one of the earliest ones to adapt to throw textbooks away.
Oh,
Apparently, they are starting to introduce textbooks again
okay.
because they have noticed and realized what's happening with their kids and their children
Okay.
who are so reliant on devices and all that.
Right.
Apparently, they are bringing it back.
I think that's a great way to go. Because then, you know, schools don't have to charge for device fees and laptops.
Oh, okay.
And all this extra. Here's going out to all you schools out there. Don't do this. So we can save some money.
Yeah.
That's how you know we're parents.
Make education great again.
Yes.
Mega.
I like how you just trumped that statement. But it's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad they're rolling it back, and I really hope that a lot of people see more sense in this. Mega.
Yeah.
Hashtag.
Oh well. Well, we got into a super long roundabout.
Yeah,
firstly,
we did.
But that's why I do on this
Yeah.
on this little thing lah. You know.
And we love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So, for those who don't know, Liang here and I go way back.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yep. We're there in what I think. Was it you or someone who coined it Studio 2105, the version 1 or the beta version?
I don't think I coined it. I definitely heard that term. So that was like the first iteration of the studio. Oh, fond memories, I gotta say. Very, very fond memories.
Yeah. And I'm trying to circle back. So this has got to be 02, 03, and you came with Jimbo, with James Baum, right?
I did.
On his song, if I remember.
Yes.
It's called The Feature.
Oh, no, the feature was later.
Later?
Yeah.
So there was another song before that.
I think it was a song before that. Okay, so I think I remember 02. Am I allowed to say where it was? The first year? Okay, so...
Yeah. Everyone knows.
Okay, so I remember driving up a hill in Ampang, parking the car by the roadside, walking up into
this condo.
to this condo. 21st floor, coming up to this grill gate, and then boom, JD greets us at the door. I'm like, this is the studio? I mean, I didn't verbalize it because I was new, red behind the ears, and these two giants of the music industry in front of me. And I was like, oh, it's in the house. And not was it in the house, it was in his bedroom. So there we are recording by the bed. But the stuff that came out from that first session, and I still remember it to this day. You know, this is easily a quarter century ago.
It's 20 years ago. I mean, it's 2025, so it's more than 20 years ago.
Oh my goodness. But 20 odd years ago, and I remember like that was my introduction to the world of the skill sets involved in music. You know, you always think it was, just pick up the microphone, do your thing, hype the crowd, go home. But then now you realize to put out a song, there was a whole other skill set involved. The electronic side. So remember I said I'm not tech savvy, so that was the side that scared me the most. I'm looking at all these multicolored bars on the screen. I'm like, oh, what's this? And then you had all these like filters on them. I had no idea, like, oh, this is what you do? You know, back in those days, YouTube was in its infancy.
Yeah.
And you didn't have, you know, widespread information about how things work. You couldn't just YouTube, okay, how do you record a song? So you kind of had to just go with the flow.
Yep.
And I remember you being there, guiding song after song, take after take. And I remember not being able to finish my takes that night because my voice was gone. I think it had been 3-4 hours. So we had to come back for a second take and things of that nature. But I remember this, when I came back for the second take, the vocals had changed dramatically in a good way.
Yeah.
Like it had been polished, it had been refined. And I'm like, what?
Oh.
This doesn't sound like me that day. I mean, it's me, but it's been polished, it's been refined. So I'm like, oh wow. So that was my first introduction to all the other skills as part of this ginormous skill set of what it takes to be in the music industry. And so that was Studio 2105 in your bedroom, in your apartment in Ampang. And then there was the second one in
Synchro Sound.
Synchro Sound.
Yeah.
And that was amazing because it's this ginormous,
It's the
cavernous vocal booth.
yeah. It's the total opposite, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like you're literally stepping into a world that could easily be New York or Hollywood.
That's right.
You know.
That's right.
Yeah, people don't know this, but we in Malaysia used to have a state-of-the-art studio that rivaled anything you could find in in the US or Europe or London or whatsoever lah.
It was cream. It rose to the top. It was amazing.
It was the creme de la creme.
That's right. And it was amazing. Okay, but I got to say this. So this was my experience coming into it, being fresh and new. I haven't even released an album yet or single yet. So this was all preparatory work, getting the album done. And I came in to do a song. I can't remember which song. But I remember you being at your console, and I was alone. Remember again, so I'm in my early 20s, haven't released an album. I'm in this ginormous state of the art, wooden architectured vocal booth.
Yeah.
And I was scared.
Right.
And
okay.
it's you're jumping from the pond into the open sea,
ocean,
like,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
and it was you sink or swim.
Mm.
And that was what was racing through my head. And I remember doing the first few takes and I was crap. And then I remember Juwita taking me out. We went for a drink. She chilled me out. And then we came back in. And then it was a lot better.
Shout out Juwita.
Shout out Juwita. And, so it was... So that journey of being new and having people to hold your hand and tell you what's right and what's wrong, or how to become better, I think that really helped a lot. It was the same in music. It's the same in the culinary world. I think, we talk about how to make society better, how to get society to another level, how to be utopia, so to speak. Like you actually just need people to help people. Not looking out for just your own needs. Helping people along the way, going out of your way to help people along the way, being nice, being kind, things of that nature. And I was exceedingly blessed to have that group helping me along. So that was Synchro Sound.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that was the second iteration.
Yeah, 03.
It's between I think it's maybe the end of 03 to mid 05.
Yeah. So I would have come in maybe 04.
Yeah,
maybe
in between
05.
then.
Yeah, somewhere in between.
Yeah.
And then it was the first real 2105.
The official one.
The official one.
Yeah, registered in SSM.
He paid his taxes.
Jangan cari saya.
Dia budak baik. But it was, and that was the third. And it was great. I mean, it didn't have to be this ginormous cavernous space.
Right, yeah.
But I think it was very strong in everything that you set out to achieve.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. No, it was great. And I would be such a regular there. Just every album, just mixing, mastering, recording, and it was amazing. I always like to give props to the people who helped me along the way. So I think a large part of me going back to 2105 was like, yo, JD's been there always. And I think a lot of other musicians feel the same way. You've helped them develop their sound, for example, or you've helped them take the album to another level. So as much as you deny your legacy, you can't undeny a legacy when it's in that form. It's music. It's passed around. It's done its rotation on the airwaves. It's got your mark on it.
Oh, man.
Songs don't die.
Yeah.
I mean, if people don't know it, sure. I mean, that's a whole different thing. But the people who have, that's JD's vocals on Maharabaya, for example. Or things of, it's yours, right?
Yeah.
Do people know that? No?
Actually, most people don't realize it.
Hey! It's JD's vocals on Maharabaya, people! This is where it gets snipped. I know he'll do that. But anyway, but
no, it used to be snipped and put into a reel nowadays.
Yes. So it's JD's vocals in Marabahaya. But where was I going with this?
I don't know.
I have no idea. But I gotta say that you developing all that has helped not just bands, but you helped to develop a scene.
Yeah.
Because for the longest time it was you were the go-to person. I think it helped that you were in Taman Tun. I think it helped that, which was central to a lot of people. I think it also helped that you also had a band, so you could relate to us. Like you were there performing, you knew what kind of sound worked, you knew how to relate to us on a grassroots kind of level. You're not just a producer who is stuck in there in the booth on your console somewhere. You didn't know how to relate. So I think that relevance came across multiple facets, which was great. And we are indebted to you.
Dude,
It's truth.
Speechless, man.
No, it's good. I mean, I would like to think that this is me verbalizing what a lot of people would have liked to verbalize, but either don't have the platform to verbalize or aren't as verbose in verbalizing it.
Indeed.
But but this is truth. Like I've spoken to people and I asked the right questions. So, and a lot of it circles back to Studio 2105 and how it helped to shape who they are, what their sound is as a band. But if you bring it out and multiply by multiple bands, and you would know this, multiple bands would have come in here at the same time. You help develop a scene and the sound of the scene. Across multiple bands, sure, they had their own distinct character and whatnot. But as a scene, through a few years, that was the 2105 sound. Whether it was on the airwaves or whether it was on a live show, that shaped it. You may not see it because you're here, you're just going through little. Okay, this one adjust 0.5 decibels and whatnot, or this one pen left, pen right, or whatever. But I've done the shows. Yes, I've emceed for those shows as well. Being on radio as well, I've helped to play. So I'm like, hey, that's 2105. Hey, and then I see your updates. Oh, this was done in 2105. So I know that it's transcended beyond just a couple of bands, and it's your legacy. And I use the word rightly. Your legacy is intact, brother.
All right, okay. So enough.
Oh, enough.
That's enough, okay? It's supposed to be
man can't take
you.
his flowers.
It's about, this is supposed to be about you.
No, man, I give credit where it's due.
All right.
I've got a good life. I don't mind taking. I don't mind not taking mine.
I want to kind of sort of. Yeah. Oh, you okay? You okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's choking with emotion, man. No, I've got a tickle in my throat. Excuse me.
Yeah. So it's like, oops, there goes that. Yeah, no, I just want to cycle back to like where we sort of left off, because that obviously brought your album, you see.
Yep.
Ring-a-dang, digga-digga.
Ring-a-dang,
digga.
Yeah.
So, still memorable title in this day. I mean, so, obviously that was put out in 07, 08, so some of the finishing touches, but how long had you actually been? Maybe you want to talk, if you can, dig up, all
the old archives,
all the storage and memory. Like, how did that album come out?
Okay, so I had 3 studio albums. So the first one was called 8 Ounce of Soul. That was like 05.
Yeah.
And then there was another one in 07, 08 called After 8. And then Ring-a-Dang Digga came like 08, 09. So I was in that space of like 4 years or so. I put out 3 albums. I was just that hard work ethic kind of a dude. Put out stuff. Let's go. Let's give ourselves another chance. And with that, with the music video and everything, so it was full on for like 4 or 5 years, just putting stuff out. But I think every single album had a 2105 touch, had a JD Wong feel, and I would say every album took me not more than a year. I would say it was maybe 7-8 months on average, just getting all the songs out, and it's 10 songs maybe.
Right.
It'll take me 7-8 months.
Yep.
And just to break down the process, so it involves the writing, so composition, and then you take it into the studio, and that's where the production happens, recording and production simultaneously, and then after that, the mixing and mastering. So when you break it down, the production and the recording, let's say you've got 10 songs. Each song, I would take maybe 2.5, 3 weeks. Sometimes, in a rare case, maybe a month. For example, if you've got multiple loose ends to tie. So let's say you're dealing with a choir, which you've done before. And then, you've got to organize yourself, liaise with the choir master, make sure the choir's in there at a certain time. They've rehearsed their parts coming in. So, but on average, so that's about 2 weeks to a month max per song. So, the album would be done in about 8 months. give or take.
Yeah.
And then it's promotional stuff. You got to do your
Yeah.
shows, come on air with the radio, on radio shows and talk about your songs, go out, do gigs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually remember that now. You know, you definitely had a very, very set or like a very defined timeline to how you created albums. You know. So I think that's super valuable. You know, because the thing is that sometimes one of the biggest weaknesses that I see with new artists nowadays is the total lack of planning as to what they want to do.
Yep.
You know, so sometimes that's the thing. They will leave things so open-ended that, you know, progress becomes so slow even on one song.
Yep.
You know, and it takes a long time, you know, for things to materialize. You know, materialize. Where is that name from? Okay. Yeah.
But I can relate. So it becomes this never-ending tweaking process.
Yeah. And let alone the release, you know, your release, and you mentioned marketing and promotional plans, your music video. If you haven't even planned that out yet, you know, and if your production takes so long, you know, then you don't realize that all this, the back end stuff, sometimes it's even harder and even tougher. That takes way longer.
Correct.
Yeah. So was there a conscious, you know?
And, you know, I'm a firm believer in making conscious movement. Like you move because there is a purpose behind that movement. So there was a case of me trying to max out whatever time I had. And you know, it carries forward into the culinary world as well.
Yeah.
Like everything's got to be planned. In F&B, even more so, like because everything needed to be done yesterday. So I think that sat well with me because I firmly believe in planning. So if it's 10 songs, it's the 10 songs. Sure, you come across a good hook and then maybe it's a 10+1 bonus track. But you have to give time for the music video to develop. And for that to happen, you need to pick the song that's going to be the music video, which takes time. So you working backwards, you need that 8 months. Because I think, you know, back in the day, there was Hits.TV and there was Channel V and there was MTV. So music videos were a big thing. So I worked backwards knowing that I had to put a music video out. So I'll do maybe 10 songs because, you know, AIM, you got to submit it for best album. So it's 10 songs. So I knew I would have 10 songs. Some of them I would rush just to make 10. I'll be honest with it. But, you know, I give it my best shot. But you had already known, okay, this song is music video. This song is music video. Everything else just makes a nice flow. Kind of a thing. So that was me working backwards. And I when the moment the album starts, I had already sounded out the music video guys. Okay, guys, here's the deposit for music video. We're going to work backwards. I'll tell you what the song is going to be. Then we'll draft out the theme, who's going to be in it, all that kind of stuff. So that helped because I knew for a fact I had to meet a deadline because the music guys are already waiting. The music video guys are already waiting. Deposit's been paid. So I'm not going to just burn that money. So I think that helped in terms of like keeping to a timeline. Okay, let's do this. Okay, this day we can't make it. Let's fix another date. So there was always that efficiency. There was always, your eyes were always on the ball. So that carried me through, and it was great. Because, you know, it's 3 studio albums in 4.5 years.
Correct. Yeah. You know, which is actually, you know, in terms of output, that's really, really good, you know.
Thank you.
That's really good, you know, especially when I talk about independent artists. So sometimes, you know. Especially when you got to the 2010s and all that, when everything became single driven. And in fact, now it is still rather single driven. But fortunately, more albums nowadays, actually. It's like, yes, actually it is.
It is. Maybe sporadically. It's coming in a small way.
Okay. You know, maybe in the band sector. Okay. So albums are making a comeback. But yeah, you know, that sort of output, that's a lot of stuff to do in 4 years. 3 full albums. Imagine all of that work that goes there.
And I think a lot of people don't see, or maybe, well, the younger generation, they don't see or they don't relate to what goes into an album now. Primarily because there isn't that many albums that come out, so you don't see the whole process unfolding before your eyes. But back in the day, you need album cover. Sure, you can go to some back alley, light a dolphin torchlight, and then just shoot a couple of shots. But it's still effort.
Yeah.
You need to get everybody together. You need to make sure everybody's on the same time. So there was a lot of effort. Write down the lyrics, work it out amongst yourselves. Who takes what percentage of royalty for composition, publishing, whatnot, and all the other stuff. So I think there was a lot more structure that went into the scene back then, which helped to facilitate the need for planning.
Yeah.
And then we'd all send our stuff to CD Baby. Remember CD Baby? And then
they're still around. Yeah.
Are they?
Yeah.
Well done, CD Baby.
They're still around. Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't think the physical thing is a big part of their business anymore. It's all digital, obviously.
Times have changed. But so you need to send your stuff over to CD Baby, get the test print, and so everything takes time. So I think just having the ability to plan and work things out with a measure of foresight was
valuable. Yes, exactly.
Yep.
Jinx, you do the same.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly. Yeah.
Old men say the same thing the same time. But
great minds think alike.
That is true. Thank you, sir. But I that's something I would miss.
Yeah.
Once a music man, always a music man, and now that I've been F&B almost 13, going into my 14th year. And different friends come and dine at the restaurant, and they would have sung in a band before or played an instrument before, and everybody misses the good old days.
Right, yeah.
But I gotta say, once a music man, always a music man. Even though they're out of it, maybe they've got a corporate job or they've got kids and they're doing something else. There will always come a time in this period where they've moved on, where they come back and try and circle back to writing a song, or you come and circle back to let's pick up the guitar again, or come back to the piano and let's lay down some chords. And I think that's part of that inner music man in you trying to come back out again. It never dies. It may lay dormant for a while, but you've got to nurture that. It may not be as regular as what it used to be. Yeah. But it prompts you every now and then. Hey. There's this hook in your head, or hey, this set of chords work well, and I think that will always be part of your life till the day you breathe your last.
Very well said, man.
Yeah.
Okay, take a break for a while. Let me check on that. I'm not sure whether the camera stopped rolling or not because of storage.
Go for
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a break after these few messages from our sponsors. So, okay, we're back from these messages. We may have lost a video there.
It's okay.
But what I do is I just put a slideshow of photos and images
okay.
Which I'm gonna dig back some of the old photos, the album covers and all that. Yeah.
Hey, tag me in that lah.
Yeah.
I mean, no, put the collaborator post.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow.
We'll do.
This is like a journey into the past. Yeah.
Collab post, you talk about IG, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, I got to figure that out.
Okay. No worries.
You see, I'm also when it comes to all these modern tech, social media, I'm such a super noob as well.
But we're into our human side.
Exactly.
So we talk, it's kopitiam talk.
Indeed,
And to me that's where the value is lah.
Yeah, man. So we touched up to the album.
Yeah.
And then I remember clearly, it was in my memory. I remember that you said that it was going to be your last album.
Yeah.
Rigadang
Digga.
Yeah. Which won AIM.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Several AIMs actually.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was
back in the day.
Best English album.
I can't remember. I think there was best engineer. There was best something else.
There was best cover. I remember.
Best
there
cover.
was an English album also.
No, I was nominated for that. So I think someone else won.
Oh.
Yeah. It was nominated. I think there was
Really? I thought.
Yeah.
But it's 2008, ma. Yeah.
Yeah. I think this was. So this is possibly another story, but everyone was saying, "Hey, congratulations! You're gonna win best English album." So I had already thought, okay, it's in the bag. But I'm typically not one to count my chickens
eggs
before they hatch.
Yeah.
So I just sat there being open, but all these congratulatory messages had already started coming in. I'm like, oh, okay, let's just see what happens. Don't want to jump the gun. And I remember somebody else won it, and I was like, I was not distressed. I was not. I believe in what will be. So I already had 2 in the bag. Sure, they were technical awards.
Yeah.
And nominated for Best English Album. But I have to always remind myself that I was literally a pasar malam kid, and I am pasar malam kid, like literally a street kid that came up to rub shoulders with all these guys who you saw on magazines and on radio. And so to me, that was already the biggest blessing. I mean, you do not need an award that's just sitting down collecting dust in your living room to verify your worth.
To seek validation in those kind of things, right?
Correct.
In the end, it's just a material.
It is. But I remember
just a crappy piece of metal which breaks easily.
I was gonna say that, but I remember the most priceless takeaway from all that was me and my dad sitting at the AIMs,
right?
And that was priceless because my dad, typical Asian parents, like never gonna make the money, one lah, what you doing, kind of a thing.
Or if they feel it, they don't express it.
No, never. So the fact that my dad was willing to accompany me to the AIMs was, to me, the biggest validation ever. Like, sure, give the award to someone else. That was the only award that mattered to me that night because the man who was my biggest obstacle. And I say that in a nice way. He didn't slap me around or whatever. He was a good dad. But he had already voiced his displeasure and concerns and all that. But he would still come and support me at the shows. I remember him coming to my shows in Alexis and buying albums to give out to everyone. So it's this little gestures that mean a lot more than getting an award and being recognized by people I don't really know. But this is your own dad.
Yeah.
So he never said, oh, I'm proud of you. None of that. But, he shows up at the show. He buys albums and gives it to people. Came to the award ceremony with me. Coming from an Asian dad.
That speaks volumes.
It does. That's the pinnacle. You don't have to say it.
Yeah.
I know that, it ticked the boxes for him. Man. So that was... That's
beautiful.
Great.
That's beautiful, man. Yeah.
So give the award to somebody else. It's okay.
I don't even remember who was it.
I don't. But I don't. Yeah. Well, whoever got it, yay. But yeah. It's not awards and it's not validated. Yeah. I mean, and it I would say it contrasts so sharply with what's going on today. Like you're gunning for views. And you're gunning for likes. And sure, you've got maybe 50,000 likes or, 250,000 views. And that seems to be the norm. Oh, how many views your video got? Or, how many streams that did your song have?
Yep.
And that seems to be the marker.
Yeah.
Good for them. I mean, it's great. It seems to be, what the system currently represents. But I want to venture out and say there's a lot more that can happen via a song that isn't captured via likes or social media algorithms that makes a song stand out. For example, if your song's playing and it helps a family to come together, for example, or it helps to heal a relationship, for example, or it helps to piece together some kind of missing piece in your life. I think that says a lot more about the song and the songwriter than 25,000 likes.
Yeah, those metrics that we measure.
Yeah,
KPIs lah, metrics
correct.
lah,
Correct.
Analytics.
Yeah,
these are the buzzwords that go around.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's sure you may point a finger and say, oh yeah, this is an old man kind of talk. Sure, I'll live with that. But there is a part of this old man that's still very much human, that's still in touch with his human side. That I want to say this is, if you're talking about, oh, why is this generation so depressed or why is this generation so disconnected, maybe we could relook at some of these things and realize why we're so disconnected.
Yeah.
Because we're probably looking in the wrong places for we're looking in the wrong places for the right things,
Mm-hmm.
which then turns out to be wrong. So you know, it's people look at, oh, how many awards you got, or how many albums you sold,
Mm.
which are all great metrics, which are all, you know, from an objective point of view, that's how you measure success, which is great. But above and beyond that, so I'm not saying in the absence of all this, but above and beyond that, there are other things that help make a song stand out, you know. And I feel that's why some of the songs from way back then make a comeback these days, because those songs stood for something. You know, We Are the World came back again with Lil Wayne and Bieber and everything. So, I mean, nothing against that version, but there was a reason that made the original song stand out more, because it ignited this human spark in you to help your brethren in time of need. So I think that's what makes a song stand out. For example.
Yeah. You know, yeah. Well said, man. That's well.
I try.
Yeah, you know?
I try. I'm on this cliff of trying to sounding like that old man at the corner of the kopitiam, just ranting for no reason. I'm not. I'm sane. I'm just telling it. It's a bit like a Ricky Gervais at the Golden Globes. I'm just saying what comes through my head.
You know, yep. That's what we're all about, man.
Yeah.
And again, I'm gonna pull this Yankees back.
Yeah, Yankees back.
Yankees
go
train
for
back,
it, man.
back on the tracks.
Yep.
So I had already heard, you know, you did talk about, you know, like, oh, how, you know, you were going to go and study at, you know, how do you call it, Le Cordon Bleu.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
He was like, that was, to me, when I first heard you talk about it, that came as a surprise and shock to me, because I had no real inkling that, you know, F&B or you know, was something that was in your interest. I was to go and study to be a chef. What is that? Wow, okay, you know.
It's as real as it gets.
Yeah, you know. I mean, you know, maybe because, you know, our relationship was very, very, in the sense that, it was a professional working relationship in this music industry. So, you know, maybe our interactions were kind of limited to that.
Yep.
So when I heard that was a surprise to me. What was it? Something that was
premeditated
already, you know, as we said, it was already cooking.
it was stewing.
Yeah.
It was marinating for a while. Okay, so there were decisions that led to that. I think, you know, I had spent time in the entertainment industry, you know, whether it's the music side and producing albums and performing, emceeing shows, video, radio, did that as well. Musical theater. So, you know, I never shirked from opportunities. And so I tried a lot of different things. And I came to a point where I realized, okay, you know what? This is pretty much it. Like, you know, sure, you could go over to Japan, or you could go over to Singapore and try MediaCore. I mean, all that kind of stuff. But here, where home is and where my heart is, that's pretty much it lah. And so it came to a point where, like, okay, it's that $1 million question. What next? What can I do to further, you know, to tick more boxes, or to, you know, to elevate myself to another level? And I realized, wow, there isn't very much more. Sure, you know, you could win another award, but it's another award. Or you could do another music video, but it's another music video. And likewise, another album. And, you know, trust me, and I didn't leave this because I lost my passion.
Oh no.
Yeah.
No.
So, you know, once a music man, always a music man. I could have gone on with another album, another music video, but I think there came a point where, you know, I needed to be able to live this full life. So I knew music was one of it, but I also knew music was not all of it. And I also knew music had a lifespan. You're only young once. You know, when your metabolic rate slows down, and you've got old man neck, and everything else, your eyesight starts to fade, and you don't look as cool as the 21-year-olds anymore. You know, you got to gracefully leave the stage. That's always been with me. So I made a conscious decision at that point in time. Okay, you know what? let's go into something else. That something else being culinary.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I made a conscious decision that album was going to be my last. I still did radio after that, won on my contract. And then right after I won on my contract, I had maybe 3-4 months and I kicked off with the culinary thing at the first intake in January. And then it's been no turning back.
Yeah.
So sure, I meet friends who come to the restaurant these days and they ask me, oh, why did you leave? And all that kind of stuff. Those who are still there, the younger ones like, you in music? Kind of a thing. And it's, because there is a segment of people who only ever knew me as a chef.
Yes.
I've been doing this for 13 years.
Yep.
What? Chef Liang? Sing song? And then somebody will have to pull up some YouTube clip and then, hey! I'm like, no. That dude is 25 kilos lighter. It's not me. But all things being said and done, you have to respect the passing of time and understand also the urgency of what needs to be done in the here and now. So I knew I've got this thing where I read energies quite well. Like I knew, okay, this season is coming to an end. There is this energy that's coming from this new thing. I have to latch onto it now. So it was sad. As with all things, when you say goodbye to something that you've cherished for the longest time, the friends that you've made. I'm not saying they can't be friends, and we're still friends and everything. We still hang out. But I think there had to be a conscious decision to like, okay, this season is done. This season has to begin now. And so that's how it began. So it was tabulated. It was thought through. It was discussed with various people. It's just sounding boards to see what other people thought. And so based on all that, so it wasn't just like wake up one day and just flip a switch. It wasn't. It was calculated and talked through and discussed and mapped out. Right. And then you move on.
Right. Yeah.
So I think the difference is a lot of people are like, I'm done. And then they don't have a fallback plan or don't have a plan B or don't have a safety net. Then like, hey, can I come back and do one more? Kind of a thing. And nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But that just wasn't how I moved on. So I'm a firm believer in planning. Okay, this one finished. Be very conscious about it. Be very conscious also about opening this door and giving it your all.
Yeah, I mean, I see the parallels there, in how you plan and then, transition is this, Yeah, so that transitioning, I mean, it it couldn't have been easy or, right?
No.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you would know this. We were paid in the thousands for 3 songs, for example. Okay, sorry, I don't know what it's like these days. But last time, I tell you, we were paid.
In my days.
And it was good money. You paid, you get paid, you make friends, and there was a scene back in the day. And now you had to exchange all that camaraderie and all that fun and being in the studio and being creative for effectively menial labor. Yeah, they're chopping onions.
Right.
It doesn't get more menial than that. You're chopping onions, the heat gets to you, you're not wearing fancy clothes, you're sweaty, you smell. Everything people say about the F&B industry is true and then some. Because it's tiring, it saps you mentally, it saps you physically, it saps you emotionally. It at the end of the day, you're spent. And then you got to show up the next day. And the next day. And so I've been doing that next day thing for the last 13 years. It comes down to how you want to live your life. So I lived my life intentionally and consciously doing music and making all the music and being creative the way I wanted it to. And I was very blessed to get songs on radio and be at award shows and stuff like that. So that was a fantabulous life. This is a very different kind of life, but very fantabulous life as well.
Yep.
Am I lucky? Yeah. Am I blessed? For sure. But there was no shortage of planning. There was no shortage of intention and purpose. There was no stone left unturned in terms of okay, let's try and make it happen, guys, as opposed to like, oh, okay, I'll just rock up and see what happens,
Right.
kind of a thing.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
still all the thought that,
Yep.
there's still all the thought. And I would say creativity, going into this as well. I mean, do you see any parallels, in,
So
to
many.
list them out for
Yeah.
us? Yeah.
I think, okay, so when you're a musician,
Mm-hmm.
you need to be creative in terms of your song,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's lyrically or your song structure or your melodies,
Mm-hmm.
the choice of chords, your choice of notes that you use in a song. So all that.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't allow creativity to just go wild. There has to be some semblance of context
Mm-hmm.
to why you chose this note, this chord structure, why you wrote the lyrics a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
For example, like Bohemian Rhapsody made no sense to some people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why is this song going on so long? What's he talking about?
Yeah,
Why
why is it transitioning to
Yeah.
different section? And yeah.
Correct, but in that context, it made sense.
Yeah.
So it may have taken a longer period of time for people to catch on to it, but it still makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because there was a concerted and intentional effort to make the song, as it were. It wasn't just, oh, let's just do whatever. I don't
Yeah.
care. So and that translates to a dish as well.
Mm.
You can't just, today's flavor of the month is mala. We'll just go and, go to town with mala, make it as hot as possible and call it this mala petaka. It doesn't work that way. It's creative. Oh, just do whatever you want.
Mm.
So that's the part I've got a problem with. Just do whatever you want. There has to be thought.
Mm.
There has to be intention. There has to be purpose behind that creative drive.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to be creative, sure, but okay, then you got to start thinking to who, what are the resources that you have available financially, your energy levels, your other commitments. So there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of things that you got to juggle,
Mm-hmm.
and doing it so is an art.
Mm-hmm.
It's
It
called
is.
adulting.
Oh.
No, I don't know where that came from, but oops. But
Yeah.
but yeah, that's so I think a lot of it boils down to that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know where that came from. Kids, don't kill me now.
No. I mean, it's all super valuable, advice and lessons, man.
Yeah.
To learn. I mean, some of my target listeners, quite a bit of my target listeners are actually like students
Oh,
or
okay.
people who are, well, mostly they are audio and music students as well.
Yeah.
But hey, it's also applicable to anybody who's, the lessons
Yeah.
as to how does one get from, point A to point B to point C in their careers to where they are now.
Yep.
Everyone's got their story, and everyone's got their valuable lessons. And I mean, that's why I love talking to you. I love talking to whoever that's on that I've had.
Yep.
Because they, I want to share. I would love them to share those lessons. You see.
Yep.
And man, if I had heard some of those things when I was younger, I wish, all the lessons that I could have learned, just listening to what you say, if I was a younger artist, just a musician thinking about, the planning side of things,
Yep.
I wish somebody was there to tell me these kind of things, much younger. So hopefully, whatever you share, your lessons, somebody, will listen to it or
It'll
watch
resonate
this.
with someone.
Yeah, exactly.
This-
Resonate.
Yeah.
Mm.
This is probably where it comes full circle, because I wasn't always like this.
Mhm.
I wrote a post about you. So this, you talked about how you wish someone had told you this when you were younger. You talk about being intentional and being purposeful and all this kind of, generic life lessons. But I remember being clueless because, at one point I was new at this as well.
Mm.
And I didn't know how to fashion my next move or what was to my advantage. I knew none of that. And I remember this clearly because I was here at 2105 in that studio right there, and I was supposed to be produced by this other producer. We should not name names. And this guy didn't show up. And you and me were waiting for the longest time. It was I think, if I remember correctly, the session was supposed to start at 9. We were still here at 12. So that's a lot of patience. A lot of patience. We were just waiting and waiting and waiting. And I remember I kept calling this guy and I'm on the way. And 3 hours later, he never showed up. And every time I called, he sounded increasingly intoxicated, if you know what I mean. And so that happened. And I was like, oh, what do I do now? I'm new at this. I didn't know how to. And I was so reliant on that producer. Like, oh, I can't move without him. What's he gonna say? I don't know where to. And then I remember you telling me these immortal words. And you said, sometimes you have to produce yourself. I don't think you remember this. You would have said this to a million other people. But that night, and I remember this, you meant the song.
Mm-hmm.
I took it to mean my life. I took it to mean my life. and so that helped to spark. And so that night, I remember the guy never showed up. We just carried on recording ourselves. Just you and me, and you helped to give pointers and guidelines. Okay, maybe we should do this, or maybe how about this as an option? And it carried on. We went home at 3 a.m. or whatever it was, which was the norm.
Which is the norm back then. It's like nowadays,
no,
past 10 is like
cannot.
Battery.
Correct.
Battery low.
Yeah, 3 o'clock, it go home. But and so it became the start of how resolve started there. That's pretty much where it was. So you talked about you've got students listening into this, and how this can inspire them. And you talked about how you, at one point, if you were younger, could have been inspired by something like this. It's come full circle because me, despite, all these nuggets of wisdom, supposedly, coming out from my 45-year-old mouth, this 45-year-old dude used to be a kid who had no idea how to proceed, clueless and all that. And you helped. So you told me, sometimes you got to produce yourself. And I rolled and I ran with it. And it carried on throughout my musical season. It carried on into my F&B life as well. Because, challenges will come regardless, whatever lah. Petrol prices increase, food prices increase.
Currency,
a whole bunch of different things. The mall shut down our entrance one side and opens the other without telling us.
Oh, okay.
Shout out to mall. But anyway, but all things said and done, I think you needed that resolve to settle those moments of crisis. And that was crucial. Mm-hmm. Like back in the day, that was a moment of crisis. I had no idea. I was clueless. I'm like, right. We had absolute patience waiting for 3 hours for this dude to show up. And then we decided, forget it. Let's just do it ourselves.
Yeah. But I have to say this though. Mm-hmm. I would not have said it if it weren't for the fact that, after, having worked with you already for, a couple of years prior to that,
yeah,
I knew, right, that you had it in you.
Wow.
It got to a stage where you could have done it,
Yeah.
And look, everyone's got a different stage in their, in their whatever that in their life.
Metamorphosis.
Exactly, in their different stage of their life.
Yeah.
It will always be, as you said, you got to learn how to crawl before you could walk. You got to walk before you run.
Yep.
So, you had already I already seen you putting in the, literally that 10,000 hours of, working on your earlier albums and all that. If it's here, it's probably already third album, I think. It should be,
second, maybe
second,
third. Yeah, one of those.
Third. Yeah. So, it's already a stage where it's like, hey, and I see that too with different artists.
Yep.
Some artists I know is like, definitely they need to hold their hand lah.
Yeah.
Right. You need to kind of babysit them through it.
Right.
Some you just, take the training wheels off and just let them run with it,
Correct.
There are some artists, in this case, like that scenario, this very specific situation.
Yep.
Then sometimes you just got to produce yourself. It's just that moment where you realize that, okay, the training wheels are off and they're just, go.
Yeah.
And then you realize that, hey,
it's quite fun.
I'm balancing. There's some acts which are like that as well, that I've worked with some bands. I know that, okay, I can just let them, even though I'm producing, But sometimes I just let them run with it because that's probably the best way, the best version of themselves or how they're going to perform and deliver. That's the way lah.
Yep.
Some people you just cannot hold their hands for too long. You just got to let them do their thing.
Yeah.
Do their thing.
And I totally agree. But I have to say that is a mark of a good mentor. The ability to know when to hold their hand or when to let go or how tightly to hold or how tightly to let go, that's the mark of a good mentor. Because if you had held on to a hand that didn't need to be held, for example, you would have maybe crushed some of the creativity.
Yeah.
And vice versa. So I think in order to realize potential to its fullest, regardless of the band or the artist or the chef, the ability to communicate and the ability to guide, knowing how much to hold back or how much to let go, and it's an art form. It's like driving stick. You gotta measure the clutch.
Driving stick? Yeah. What? Is driving stick?
Sorry,
stick
old people
nowadays.
talk. Manual cars.
Clutch?
I can't believe I said that. But it's that. It's an art form. Knowing how much to let go, knowing how much to pull back. And I must say you are absolutely correct, because the moment you said that, I was like, hey, I actually didn't need these training wheels. And you kind of just zoom off into the horizon and allow your creativity to take shape, knowing that the 10,000 hours had already been put in. For example, and then you've got a steady base to allow creativity to flourish. It's when that 10,000 hours isn't there, and then I want to be creative.
Yeah, then you shaky foundation lah.
Correct.
Correct.
And you draw parallels with the culinary industry. Let's be creative. Hold up the knife and cut yourself. At the first time of asking, then you're like, that ruins everything. You got blood all over your tomatoes.
Oh no!
So
is that personal experience?
No, it's
You've
not.
seen it before.
I've seen it so many times.
It's a bloodbath.
It's a bloodbath, and everything's got to go because your tomatoes are red, your blood is red. Like, no lah, all this got to go. But essentially, it's a life lesson.
Yeah.
And for older folks like us who are in a capacity to mentor, I think that's a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
And for younger people, maybe it's good to serve that 10,000 hours, or clock in that 10,000 hours so that like when you finally have the chance to be creative, you can actually be creative.
Yeah.
I'll give you another example. I had a pastry chef who was a competition chef. This is the culinary side of things lah. Had not served her 10,000 hours, but wanted to be creative. So, okay, time for new menu. So we swap our menus every 6-7 months, keep things fresh, and all that kind of thing. So every time we swap to a new menu, she would scale down. I'm like, but we are putting out new stuff. She's like, oh no, don't worry, these are the ones that work. I'm like, oh, okay. I like to give people chances. Okay, let's see. Maybe she's right. So I'm like, okay, first menu, second menu, we're like, okay, we just retain the bestsellers list. Third menu, 6 months down the road, she wanted to retain the same menu, nothing new. So I was like, no, that's not right. Everything's changing. Food prices have gone up. We have to adapt accordingly. Customer palettes are changing. We have to adapt accordingly. Oh, then she took me aside and said, I can't. I was like, why? I don't know what else to do. And I think that was symbolic of a lot of people who want to be creative. Like, I can do this. I can also do this. How? I've seen it on YouTube once. That kind of a thing. I'm not slamming anybody. I'm not putting any generation down. I'm not being bad to any demographic. I'm just saying that in the absence of that 10,000 hours, that's all you're going to get. It's limited. It doesn't have a firm foundation. You want to be creative, but you can't because you don't know how to be creative. Sure, by luck, you might have one, maybe two good dishes. Maybe by luck, you got 1-2 good songs. But if you don't have a solid foundation, you're not talking about albums. You're not talking about a proper lifespan of a proper catalog of songs or dishes. And you see how they kind of have parallels.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she came to back to the story. She came to a point where she realized she had to go because she realized, and it was a shock to her system, she realized that she could do no more. Sure, she was a competition chef. excelled in very few things. Very. So I think it finally caught up with her, and we finally came to a mutual agreement. Okay, you know what? You may be better off in like a cooking school or something where you're not feeding paying customers, kind of a scenario. And shook hands. Everything went well. But what I'm trying to get at here is creativity without having spent time building up to the level where you can actually be creative is actually being a bit delulu lah. Yeah.
Delulu.
Very much a delulu kind of scenario. Yeah. I don't know if you got similar stories like of, guys who come in here and like, oh, I want to put out a hit single and then never perform on stage or
well, I mean,
a couple of chords together.
That's actually a lot more common, I think, in the There's a lot more common, and I could go into a super long rabbit hole, but that is not the
not a place for it.
Yeah, not the place, because it involves very complex systems. Part of it involves the educational institutions. It also involves, unfortunately, it does involve the actual audio industry. When I say audio industry, meaning the manufacturing industry, manufacturers. Because in order to sell more products, they have to sell a certain narrative.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. And that's the thing.
Yes.
Yeah. You need to sell more mics and audio interfaces and all that, you see.
Yep.
So you got to market your anyone can be or everyone can be this or that, this or that.
Yes.
So there's so they sell the lie, they sell the Lulu-ness.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And more than a fair few will bite into it. And it's
right.
It's sad because somewhere down the line, maybe sooner rather than later, they'll realize like, hey, I'm not cut out for this. Or hey, this isn't what it's cut out to be. I mean, either one of the two. And then it all shatters lah.
Yeah. But I mean that's not all doom and gloom. I mean, in the case of the pastry chef that worked for you.
Yep.
Right. Hey, maybe it's a come to Jesus moment realization. Hey, maybe I need to regroup. I need to reconciliate where my actual strengths and where I can best channel my energies and creativities too. Maybe this is not meant for you.
Yep.
Maybe it's something else.
Yep.
That possibility is always there. So I think the main takeaway from that is you got to be open lah. You don't let that be a setback.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
It was a setback.
Yep.
But it does not mean that's the end of the road.
Oh yeah.
There's another opportunity.
Correct.
That will, it's cliche again lah.
Yeah.
When one door closes, God opens another door.
Yeah.
So, but it's true. There is.
It's true. So you may not be a chef, but maybe you could be a pastry teacher.
Yeah.
Or you maybe not be a performing artist, but maybe you could be a vocal teacher, for example.
Yeah.
So I think there are other doors that will open.
Yeah, heck. Oh, I mean, the very attractive thing nowadays, just be some kind of YouTuber and just make use of it. Yeah. Food reactioner.
Yeah, food reactioner. I mean, what? Dish.
Oh, okay.
I mean, yeah. There's a place for all these people, and I'm sure there are audiences that absolutely love and thrive off whatever they post. Yeah. Different herbs for different herds.
Yeah. One man's meat.
Oh, yes. It's another man's whatever.
Another man's sous vide.
Yes.
One man's char siu is another.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, there's something. It doesn't hide from the fact that if you want to get good at anything, the groundwork needs to be solid lah. I mean, it works for buildings, it works for musicians, it works for chefs. I'm sure it works for like corporate warriors.
Yep.
So it's that would be the take home truth.
Yeah. It'd be good to sort of. I also want to dig in a little bit more. So if you can, like, give me it's out of my curiosity,
Sure.
Like, give an outline of how does one, study this, and how your journey through, the whole culinary school is like, like, what's your entry requirement? What's, how many years? What's the process like?
Okay.
Yeah.
So there are multiple options out there. there are some that work like a regular degree program. So you do the whole 3 years. You learn your moral, your English, and everything else. So it's proper textbooks kind of stuff. And then there are those that are more practical. So I did the more practical one, which is very much hands-on. You're cooking all the time. You got no time for textbooks. Because I believe that helped prepare me more for what was to come. You're in the kitchen all the time. You're not sat down, hunched over a textbook, trying to memorize facts. So I think that was... I mean, it's good to have knowledge, but the kitchen being what it is very much knowledge on the go. Like you're cutting something and you already have the knowledge in the head. It's not reading and then regurgitating over an exam.
Right.
So I took a course that was 9 months intense, and then it was a cuisine culinary course by Le Cordon Bleu. Went in and you got 3 different terms and you advance as you go. And then I took a step further. I ended up working for them as an internship, the oldest guy in the internship program, because I was in my mid-30s by the time I did this, transitioning out of music and going into culinary school. So I was cutting onions with people who were half my age. Literally, 17-year-old, fresh out of SPM, 34-year-old. What? And it was a wake-up call. It made you question, why am I doing this? And if you can answer that, and if you can answer that well, you know you're on the right track.
Right.
Yeah. So that went well. So back to the timeline, I did an internship with them, worked for them just to understand a little bit more about how things worked behind the scenes. It's not just cooking a dish. There's also the washing, there's also the storage, there's also special events that you got to prepare for. And I needed to know how all these things worked out behind the scenes. So in the same way, it's not just sing a song, go home. It's good to know what else goes behind the scenes. What kind of bass tone do you want for your song? Do the 808s work, for example? All this kind of stuff. It helps you to flesh out your final sound. So this also helped to flesh out this final dream of opening a restaurant. Did that whole thing, and then came out and opened my own restaurant. Which was in 2015.
Right. Yeah.
Converted a factory.
Yep.
Into a restaurant called Whoop Whoop.
Whoop Whoop.
Yeah.
Yes.
Love that place to bits, and it closed due to the virus. You can't fight the virus, man. So it's
What virus?
that virus.
Oh, okay.
Dang, dang, dang. Starts with a C. But it was life. Like bittersweet. Sure, I had to close, but and laid low for 2 years before coming out of the pandemic and restarting a new restaurant in Gardensmith Valley, for which you have been a patron a few times. Thank you very much.
You did the pop-up thing at Sentul Depot
I
also,
did,
right?
yeah.
For a while,
Under the same name.
Yeah.
So Red Red Botak Head started off as a pop-up in Sentul Depot, Tiffin. That was the first thing. First thing we did after pandemic. And it was mad times because everybody was revenge spending. People are throwing money left, right, center. You've been stuck at home. There's only that many Squid Games that you can watch. So you come out.
There's many more Grab food that you can order.
Correct. Soggy fries and whatnot. Cold laksa. So you're just out to eat fresh food. You're dressed up to the nines. It doesn't matter if you're just going to the grocery store. You're dressed up to the nines because everybody's out.
Yeah.
You're buying things that you don't need. You're buying things that you don't like. People are just spending. And it was great for business. And so it allowed us to, it gave me confidence, like, okay, from this pop-up, I can open a store.
Yeah.
They open a store. And so we've been in our current lot in Gardensmith Valley for the last 2.5 years.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's been good.
It somehow it just feels longer than that to me, but
It
maybe
does.
it's just my mind, lah.
I think post-pandemic, the way we decipher time is just different. It's not necessarily longer, and it's not necessarily shorter. It's just warped.
Yeah.
Things that should be shorter feel longer.
Things that should be
Shorter.
longer sometimes feel
And vice versa. So you're like, it's just weird, and you got to start thinking like, I've had to refresh myself because you meet friends after the pandemic, and is he or she going out with the same guy or girl? I'm not sure. Do they have kids now? Are their parents still around? And you're not sure because a lot of things would have had transpired since then. So it's been weird times. Sure, it's been 5 years since the pandemic first hit, but we in a lot of aspects, we're still trying to get to grips with the aftermath.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm, exactly.
So I'm sure the music industry likewise.
Likewise, yeah, you know, things definitely have, evolved. Things have shifted.
Yeah.
You know, trends have shifted. You know, it's like the thing is, the moment you think you figured it out, you think you figured it out, you ain't you ain't no shit.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's so true.
It's-
and that I think that's true for just everything across industries,
yeah.
across families. So like you're constantly learning and relearning on an almost daily basis, and it's it can take a toll on you. So I always tell my guys, like, just smile and carry on. That you just have to, because you never know what tomorrow's gonna bring. I'll give you an example. The current place that we are at, they've had to shut down the entrance twice. And so that's pissed a lot of people off. That people are like, why you close? Like it's our fault. It's not. So we've had to deal with customers being irate or losing customers. But it's out of our hands. In the same way, COVID was out of our hands. You can't tell the virus, stop, go back to wherever you came from. It just carries on.
Right.
So you have to roll with it. You've just got to do the best you can with possibly not very favorable circumstances.
Yeah. I mean, in life lah, ups and downs. There's the sweet moments, there's the bitter moments. There's the umami moments, the savory moments, and
everything in between.
Everything in between.
Yeah.
Man. So that's how life is lah.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. So if do you like mentor anyone now? Your staff.
Oh yeah.
Apparently,
Yeah.
So,
I think us being a bit further down the line from where we were. When we were young, young and fresh, and we always thought the world was our oyster. We're a lot wiser now, and I think it'll be a waste if we don't pass down some kind of understanding and wisdom to the younger ones, give them a good grounding. So it's a constant process. You're constantly training new people, passing on knowledge as best as you can. Not everybody's receptive. So it's a shame sometimes, because this guy's got potential, but they're not open or they're not receptive to it, and then it becomes really hard. So you then, as a mentor, you got to think, okay, do I push on? Do I carry on teaching, or do I let this guy go?
Yeah.
And so that's going to be perpetual across all the guys that come into your realm. So that's something I consciously want to do, like, pass it on.
Right.
I'm not one of those guys who like, oh, this recipe is mine, only I make it, I'll pass it on. Everybody's got to know how to do it. Everybody's got to know how to do it well. And it's not just recipes, it's also conduct. For example, no swearing in the kitchen, maintain a cool demeanor at all times, especially in front of customers, things of that nature. So I think that's always important, because if you are young and you've got no one to tell you, you can't assume that they know, because they don't know. So it's a lot of work. It's backbreaking. It takes a lot out of you mentally, because you got to deal with teaching them, you got to deal with the questions, you got to deal with how much they're actually absorbing, and then you got to feed in the rest. So it's intense. Yeah.
So what are the the traits, or what are the characteristics of, let's say, of someone who wants to get into into this line of work, man? If people want to study that.
I would say it's the same thing in any industry. Music, the same. If he or she has an interest, and I say that with a capital I, and it has to be coupled with an openness to learn. Because if you've only got interest but you don't have an openness to learn, it's going to stifle you.
Yeah, you won't go far.
You won't go far. Yeah. So it has to be these two pillars. You need to have an interest. You need to be open to learn. And when I say open to learn, it's not just sitting there and smiling and while I talk to you. It's about doing the daily grind. You got to know what the difference is between shallots and onions and what the flavor is going to be. Using different oils, what's it going to be? What's the end product? Stew it for how long? If you stew it too short, the meat's going to be tough. If you stew it too long, everything turns to mush. Things of the nature. When do you add the carrots in? Because if you add it in too early, it's going to be too sweet in the stew. For example, things like that. Do you add the herbs in before? Do you add the herbs in after? Because if you add the herbs in before, all the essential oils just dissipate. You won't taste the thing. So it's not everyone has the patience to take all that in. But in so saying, that helps you to differentiate between those who will go far and those who you would gladly mentor and those who would fall by the wayside. So it's a natural
natural selection.
Yes, it is. So those who can will stay the course. Those who cannot will fade into the background.
Right.
So, but in order to do that, you need to mentor across a wide variety of number of people.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe 50 people, maybe 100 people, and only two will stand out, for example. So what happens to the 98? Don't know. Maybe they selling vacuum cleaners. I don't know. I mean, I wish them good. I wish them well.
They may be off to successful in other ways.
Yes,
yeah. So, but,
different things. But it kind of shows that maybe music wasn't meant for you, or maybe the culinary world wasn't meant for you. So we select in the same way that they would also help select their path in life. Yeah.
Yep.
So I think that's crucial for all parties.
Yeah. I think this is really, really good, man. It's super valuable lessons to take back.
Yeah. I would like to think that's maybe one of the reasons why Juwita picked me to be a part of the record label, because I was interested.
Working with 440, right?
Yeah, 440 Records. Because I was interested and I had that hunger to learn. Like I would join them for shows. Don't care if I was in the background. I was just absorbing everything. This is what Juwita did. This is what Altered Frequency did. Then I go on shows with Resh Monu. And then, this is backup singers. Elvira was a backup singer for him once upon a time. And this is what the backup singers do. This is okay. and you needed to show up and pay your dues while not being in the limelight. You're not in the limelight. Nobody cares about you. You're not being fed. You're not being paid. You're just there because you want to know. And I think that's the part that a lot of people miss out on. Nobody pay me for what? For example, nobody give me any credit also. That kind of a thing. I'll tell you this. Once upon a time, there used to be a show, like a little segment on TV called the ATV Quickie. Remember that?
Of course. Yeah.
So it was MixChat and it was Marian.
Yeah.
And on weekends it was Rina Omar and Fat Fabes.
It's always like 11:30, almost close to midnight, right?
Middle of the night. Okay, so I wanted that to be on that show so bad. And I would show up every single day on the set of the show, just watching them, how they interacted with the camera, which is probably why I'm so comfortable in front of the camera now. But I would watch what Marian did, what MCee did. I would watch what Rina would do at the weekends and Fabes. And they were all different dynamics, and they would all hold the show differently according to their characters and how they did things differently, but it would gel. And then I remember the producer of that show was this guy called Melvin, and he would allow me back into where the console was, and I would see how they would pan from camera to what camera, at what angle, and why. And that was me showing up, not being paid, not being fed, because I wanted to learn. And it came to a point where I was this close to becoming the next ATV Quickie host. And I remember MCee would, we played football, and then he would be my mentor. He's younger than me, but he'll take me on. Okay, Liang, you must do like this. Okay, you must do like this. You cannot be as close. You cannot be like Fat Fabes because he's also loud, but you are also loud. But you have to be a different kind of loud. That kind of a thing. And I would take it all in. I was like in my mid-20s. I'm like, that's valuable. So I think it goes back to you had that interest, sure, but I was showing up on a daily basis without credit, without financial remuneration, and none of that. I just wanted to know, and I just wanted to make myself better. So yeah, I rocked right up to Media Prima. Well, it's no longer there now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so sad.
So only the shell.
Yeah, they've taken down the logos and everything. But I would show up to Media Prima every single day, park my car, know all the guards by name. Yeah, pergi training. That would be my thing. Oh, pergi training, budak training. So they will go. I'll go in there. I'll sit. I'll help around. Sometimes, they need an extension cord. I'll run and get it. Stuff like that. So it was paying your dues. So I did the same with music. TV hosting. All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And I think that characteristic is what's missing because anybody who's into something new already wants money. Anybody who wants anything done wants money, wants recognition. I'm like, there's a lot of stuff that goes in before you can actually get yourself into that bracket, people. So then people say, but that's abuse. That's not humane. How can you go with uncredited work? But hey, you're being taught. You actually go to a school. You actually pay the school to get taught. Does that not work the same here?
Yeah.
You're being taught by professionals who have served their years in the industry. That's teaching. You would pay,
thousands, tens of thousands.
Exactly.
To do that.
And it's not even one-on-one. You're 1 in 20 maybe, or 1 in 25, or 1 in 30. You're paying to be taught in a group setting. Here, it's potentially one-on-one.
One-on-one, yeah.
You would not pay? Why?
Yeah.
It makes no sense. And people are like, cannot like that.
Yeah,
Like, you cannot like that. No, make no sense. I mean, sure, you're trying to find where the advantage is.
Great clips.
Yeah. Sure, you're trying to find where the advantage is. You try maybe to look out for the well-being of your son or your daughter. Sure. By all means, be that good parent, look out for your son. But if you protect your son or your daughter that much, and you keep them from the realities of the world, they need to be paid, they need to this, they need to that, that's not real. I mean, most parents would know to get to wherever you are in the corporate ladder, you would have served your dues. Photocopy paper, bring people their Starbucks, all that kind of stuff, done the work that nobody cared. Your office boy, young intern, junior exec, that kind of thing. Been slept about, worked the late night hours, doing nonsense for minimal pay. There has to be that. So I think that's not right about what's going on in society now, I feel. Jing, Uncle Talk, hashtag. I don't know where this is going, but
that's another great clip, man. Okay, goes viral. What did Liang say? What? The caption will be, I can't believe what Liang said.
Oh, man. My name is Ricky Javert. No, I'm not.
Man.
No, but I say that all out of love. Like,
yes.
Like so I'm not being spiteful. I'm just telling you what's been going on.
Exactly.
With my own eyes, like in the industry. Like, if you feel it the same way, great. Then let's do something about it positively as society. But if you take it the wrong way and you want to take it out on me, I mean, well, go for it.
No, man. I mean, 100% agree with you.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about whoever's watching out there.
All right, yeah. 100% agree with you. You take it on me when it comes to the audio. I've given my fair share of rants in that field, in this field as well.
Yeah.
It's
but serving your dues, and if you push through, and it's all about chasing your dream, right?
Yeah.
And it will come through.
Yeah.
Like, I remember this very clearly. Like, I'd served my dues, done all the back end stuff and all that. And then my song got played on radio. And I was like, wow. And, here's this Pasar Malam kid. Hey, songs on radio. And then, albums coming out and everything. And then I remember I had to do, we were called upon to do the Hits Birthday Bash. And I had only, done a small-ish shows before that. Sure, high school proms, just 1,000 people kind of stuff. And that's big. 1,000. And then you rock up to the Hits Birthday Bash, and everybody who's anybody is there. Resh Monu's there doing his thing. Pop Sub is there doing their thing. K-Town Clan, Furhat, Jason Lowe.
J-Lo, yeah.
And I was like, oh no, this is the big time. So and it was crazy. And the crowds were up like, wow. And all the radio jocks. Serena was there, and JJ and Rudy, and it was like, and this was like, after only a handful of shows, and then boom, the Hits Birthday Bash. And I was like, oh boy, what do I do? How do I navigate this? And it was tough.
No, but you were a pro, man. I remember those shows. I remember those events.
And we all remember. But you remember what you saw. But let me tell you what's going on in my head.
That we couldn't see. Okay.
Yeah. So this is that duck swimming on water and the feet's paddling like mad underneath, because you're like, on the one hand, you're struggling to get to grips with like, wow, I'm rubbing shoulders with all these big boys. And then reality sets like, oh shucks, I'm singing on the same stage as these big boys. And I've only done a handful of shows. And these guys have, they've all been around. You guys have been around easily like years before that. So it was that heady combination of fear and excitement. You know how that feels? Yeah. You're scared out of your wits. You could wet your pants at any point in time. But hey,
at the same
this
time,
is fun.
The adrenaline is
And it's a crazy mix that I will not wish on anyone in their 40s. In your 20s, you can take that mix. In your 40s, you're just like, I'm just gonna curl up in a fetal position and just die. But that was crazy. So that to me was like, wow. So it was deep water after deep water after deep water. But the thing about deep water is you realize you just have to swim, regardless.
Yeah.
If it's 2 feet of water, you swim.
Yeah.
If it's 10 feet of water, you swim. If it's 100 feet of water, you swim.
You swim even even further.
Yeah, you swim even further. I mean, it's deeper, sure. The magnitude of the whole thing is ginormous. But you're still swimming.
Yeah.
On the surface, as it were.
You're still going through the motions. You're still doing that same
exactly.
thing. Yeah.
So I think that picture stayed with me a long time. To maintain sanity through all these things, I'm like, okay, I'm just swimming. 2 feet of water, small show, high school prom, yeah, cool, I'm swimming. His birthday bash, whoo, I'm swimming. And it's been good. So you learn to focus on what you can do, as opposed to the magnitude of the situation. Because then you get eaten up.
Overwhelmed.
You're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Oh no, Richmond just went up. Like, how do I?
Yeah,
You're not fighting Richmond. You're just doing your own thing.
Yes,
you slaughter and you just do. So you're not thinking about, Allah, they put me after a band. How do you match that energy? You're not matching that energy. You just do you.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's however the crowd reacts, that's up to them. But you go up there, you give a good account of yourself, you put on a good show. Boom. That's all that was ever asked of you. Period. So that was something that I took home, and that's another life lesson that has kind of helped me through.
Nice, yeah.
Because I remember the after party, that we were all chilling and having drinks and everything. I was like, wow, I'm chilling with the Pop Shabby guys. I remember Joey G, who, and he was fresh on
MTV? No, Channel V. Channel V, yeah.
Came by and hung out with us. And we became colleagues after that at the radio station. So Joey G, I'm like, my God, that's Joey G. Inside I'm all fanboying because in my head, I'm still this street kid. And it was surreal, but it was so real because I was already here. And I remember driving you guys back to the hotel after that. I was like, wow, I got all these guys in the passenger seat with me. And it was just memories like that, man. That 20 odd years after that, I'm still remembering it like, wow. Something else.
Indeed, man. Yeah. Yep. And this is like, it was the accomplished chef. You put the nice finish
Ta-da!
to the whole course, the entire course,
This is where you put the cheville, the final herb. Finito. Remember that?
Yeah, finito, yes.
Finito.
I know. My favorite word, poignant. I remember your poignant strings.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
It sticks with me to this day.
Oh,
it's
poignant.
Like, how...
How did it come about?
It's referring to like strings. You're asking me how did the strings sound like?
Yeah,
it's like
I remember that. And
I can't find it.
The right term.
Because it's not sad.
Yeah,
it's not like happy. It's not melancholic. So it's like,
Yeah. And to people who are like, what's this inside joke all about? Like we
inside
had
joke. Yeah.
We had a violinist come in and session for one of the tracks. and I was just asking opinions, like, what do you think about this? And that word stuck with us for the next like almost 20 years. I asked JD what was his opinion on what he thought the string sounded like. He said poignant. And that came right out of the blue because, you know, I was expecting like, oh, it's nice. Oh, I think you can tweak a little bit here or, you know, whatever. Poignant? How did we get this poignant thing? Oh, but that was hilarious, man.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, man. It's a good place to wrap up.
Oh, yeah?
I think, you know,
I think so,
unless, you know, is there anything that's on your plate next? I'm just using all these
Yeah.
metaphors. What's next on your plate? Is there anything that you can talk about?
We've got 2 more outlets coming up.
Wow,
which
that's
is
news
great.
to me.
Yeah, it is. So
cool.
one more is in front of Merdeka 118, so downtown KL.
Wow.
And one more is in Genting.
Right, yes, you mentioned that,
So that's great. But, I mean, you know, that's on a personal basis, but, you know, to all you guys listening out there, you know, we talked about life lessons, and we talked about stories and what happened, and you know, we went down memory lane quite a fair bit. But if there was one thing from this whole podcast, this whole chat that we had, that I want to leave with you guys is, you know, you meet people and you rub shoulders with all kinds of people, but the good ones will leave a lasting mark. Sorry, did I just the good ones will leave snippets or embed your life with whether it's a word or whether it was a scenario or whatever it is. And JD has left
splinters.
Multiple splinters. And it was memories or it's words or it's advice and or you know, all kinds of things. So and I firmly believe I'm not alone in saying that. Like, as much as you play it down or no lah, it's not even a legacy. It's I think it really is a legacy. Like how you've shaped people. Sure, albums and whatnot, sure. But I think also in honing in on their craft and in honing that talent, there would have been life lessons that you would have spilled to these people who may or may not still be in music. But by and large, they hold on to the different things that you've said, the different things that you've imparted, and it becomes a part of them. So, you know, we don't see each other on a regular basis, like, or whatever, and it could be years before the next one, but I hope not. But what I'm saying is, like, all these little bits, and it's happened over easily, a quarter century, all these little bits have stuck with me. You know, advice or what things I should do, or life lessons, or how do I turn this thing around? And that's just me. You multiply that by all the different bands and their respective members, you've got hundreds of people out there who carry an imprint of JD. And so likewise, to all you all out there, you're thinking, oh, okay, I'm just doing this song, it's going out to nobody. I'm mentoring this guy, I don't know if he or she will make it. Or, you know, I'm just here doing multiple hours, not being credited. Don't know if I'll make it. Nobody's paying me. I think the key thing here is you never quite know where you'll end up. But if you keep at it, and if you're not, and if you keep your head on your shoulders and you clock in your 10,000 hours, it's a guarantee you will get somewhere. You may not be the chef that you dream of being, but you could have a great career utilizing the same skills somewhere else. You will make it. I'm not saying you will make it the way you intended it to make it, but you will make it. So my life as chef carries these little bits of advice that have stuck with me from the days of music into this life and into the next phase, whatever the next phase might be. So keep on keeping on.
Keep on keeping on, yeah. Yeah, I read that. I remember that line, man.
Yeah. So that's
the song. Yeah.
That was on here as well.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. I think so.
Anti-bullying campaign. Oh
right.
my goodness.
The star, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I see. I remember the video as well.
Oh my.
Yeah,
So you see, like,
in 720p in all the 720p glory of the days.
back in the day.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Oh man, okay, right. I'm super uncomfortable already.
Oh, why?
On this, because you always try to turn it back on me.
Nah,
But
it's a good thing.
Yeah, but Liang, thank you for the music. Thank you for the amazing food.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you for all your creations. Where it be auditory or gastronomical creations now.
That's all the big words right there.
Yeah, exactly. But thank you for friendship, man.
Oh,
Yeah,
my
thank you for your
pleasure.
friendship. Thank you for all the good memories, lah.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Like
man.
you a lot of you don't remember this or may not know this, but I remember emceeing at your wedding.
Yeah, yeah.
And you being there at my wedding. So it's been, these are all the major milestones in each other's lives. So that's always been a part. I mean, you can't take that away from anyone. Like, so it was great to be there to witness your wedding and the next phase of your life. So it's
Likewise.
Yeah.
We've witnessed each other's
Milestones.
lives and all that. Yeah.
So it's been great and to see how challenges will come and go. This too shall pass. Whether you're in a good moment or you're in a bad moment, this too shall pass. So you just gotta
Indeed.
cycle along with it and smile.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thanks, Liang. Right. So check out Red Red Botak Head. Yeah. Bye bye.
Booms.
Okay. Booms.
Together.